there are a lot of things that a designer should feel he or she is lucky because we get to work on multiple domains. Not many people get that opportunity in life. We don't realize that. What that means you need to learn to unlearn and relearn, which most of us don't do. We think our life is as good as tools, some mastery on tools. But in today's day and age, I know that every 6 months something changes, right? You need to basically keep an empty mind.
Yeah.
At least some empty space in your mind where you know that I need to unhook. That's very difficult. All of us have gone through that. First principles, again, as designers, I think we should have the humility to learn and unlearn. Because this I know it all doesn't help. Frankly, I'm no saint. There was a point in time in my life where, after the first 3-4 exits, you get an extra chip on your shoulder. Literally, your horns start growing because you're a great designer, you're a product designer. People see what you build. That's why your company gets bought and sold. But I think you need to step back and think that you're only as good as your last project, but the whole world is waiting for the next thing, right? Humility, willingness to learn, and the propensity to go and ask people. Humility doesn't mean I'm humble and I won't even ask anything. And the last important thing is, if you don't know, you don't know. Feel free to claim that you don't know. Be proud about the fact you don't know. And also have the faith that there is somebody who knows, right? Go and ask.
Welcome to Design Drives, your audio experience about what, how, and why design drives things forward. A podcast hosted by Sebastian Gier, together with forward-thinking design practitioners from around the world.
Hey everyone, so in this episode I had the opportunity to talk to UKP, Udhaya Kumar Padmanabhan, a serial entrepreneur and design leader from India, currently Global Strategic Design Director at Designit, a company from Wipro, and also founder of UX First. We talk about the intersection of design and entrepreneurship and how designers can drive impact in new ventures, building businesses and innovative products, based on his learnings of building and selling companies for over 20 years. It was super inspiring learning from his perspectives, and I'm absolutely grateful for that opportunity. So we sat together at UX India, one of the leading and largest UX conferences in India, where both of us did a separate workshop and talk. And I really hope you enjoyed the episode. Enjoy. I'm here with the UKP, meaning Udhaya Kumar Padmanabhan.
Okay.
Was that correctly?
Okay, so yeah, it's okay. Most of them don't get it right. My actual name is Udhaya Kumar Padmanabhan. In short, UKP, because people struggle to call me by first name, second name basis. So I just made it a TLA. So most of the people that I know me as UKP. So
okay,
yeah,
right. You make it easier for people.
Yes.
Yeah. So you're a strategic design director at Designit,
yes,
which is super interesting. You work with multiple studios, and you're also ambassador for communities here in India like UX First. So we're going to tap a little bit into this. And you've been also working in entrepreneurship quite a bit, founding startups. So super interesting. But maybe it would be great for the audience, so they get a little bit of context about. Maybe you can give a quick one to your journey, why you got into design in the first place, and then we can dive deeper into some of the topics.
Cool. First of all, thanks for having me here. Wonderful initiative, and I'm super happy that we'll do whatever we do, and I hope this resonates with people, and looking forward to many more such podcasts. Congratulations on a nice initiative. So a little about me. I've been doing this for like 22 years. This is all I do for a living. Why design? Interesting question. So I have been pretty fortunate to have parents who supported all my whims and fancies from a very young age. I had artistic inclination, not design, artistic. I was a self-learned guy. I started sketching and painting and sculpture and pottery and you name it, I've done it. As times progressed, I started slowly freelancing way back when the term freelancing was not as prevalent in India as it is today. Creating posters, creating banners, doing stuff and earning pocket money, if you will. At that point in time, I was like 16, 17 at that time. By then, it had fortified in my mind that this is what I'm going to do for a living. If you can make a lot of money when you're 16, just imagine how much of money you could make when you graduate and all of that, right? So, but in terms of academics, I did hardcore math, stats, and computer science. I was good at programming, but I never wanted to spend the rest of my life being an engineer or a coder. So I think the natural inclination was get into design. And it has been a fantastic ride for the last 22 years. Started off with my days, even the term UI was not as prevalent in India as how it is now, probably. I started off as a visual designer, was into multimedia.
These terms were not there, right?
So those days, I was doing bits and odds and ends, but it was more about print, and multimedia was big. Authorware, Macromedia Authorware and director, and used to, do CD titles and all of that, 3D and all of that. I started from very strong fundamentals, and super happy to be still here and making a living out of it. And I've seen a lot of startups. Most of my employers got bought out or sold, and a couple of mine I had great exits, so can't complain. So that's been me in a nugget for the last 22 years.
I know you've founded a couple of startups and had exits and so on. Maybe you can give some personal highlights on some of the stations along your journey.
Okay, specifically with entrepreneurship is what you're saying?
Yeah, probably.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. I think yeah, we designers basically start off because we're very passionate about creative things, craft, all of that. But at some point in time, I started working for product companies, big and small, used to do freelancing. I was pretty much plugged to the design scene, right? And internet was probably crawling stages, like very, very, maybe when I started, at least back home in this part of the world, internet was very infantile. So a lot of opportunities, but a lot of, information asymmetry. You don't get information like how you get today, right? So I had to do a lot of, juggleries, learn things. But yeah, I started working for big companies, small companies, got exposed to multiple facets of design across the enterprise and all of that. Consumer space was slowly coming up. So somewhere down the line, almost all of my companies that I've been associated with as an employee, or even, where I've consulted, unbelievably, most of them, almost all of them either got merged with a bigger firm, or they get acquired. So I think I was maybe I was at the right place, right time. And somewhere down the line, yeah, you work across the globe, you build friends, your perspective changes. And somewhere down the line, in 2006, 2005, 2006, when I built a global UX operation from the ground up, suddenly this thought bubble hit me. Like, we've been part and parcel of amazing companies which exited. Yes, we also had exits. We also made money, all that. But I think the time now is right for probably you to do your own stuff. And then it was the proverbial, if not now, then when? And me and a friend of mine actually went and figured out that, yes, let's take the deep dive. And then what do you build? Right? And the classic thing, too many ideas, too many journals. I have a big fat book with so many ideas. And then while this was brewing up, I got associated with, another group of people that I've worked with. So we founded a company in the biodiesel space. I was one of the founders. It was a classic, maybe in retrospect, it was a classic service design ecosystem problem that we solved way back in 2007. The hypothesis was biofuels are the way to go. And there is a way in which you can actually have an entire ecosystem, starting from the seed to the finished product to the marketplace. We had significant traction, so much so that even, this was pitched with the father of ERP. He showed interest. So we gained a lot of traction and we built this fantastic platform, and then we finally got acquired, right? And then by then, the other thing was brewing up. And then we figured out that online banking in the world was not as safe and as secure as what people think. So my co-founder was a hardcore, antivirus assembly. He was basically the programmer, if you will. And the programmer, yeah. Very great pedigree, intense knowledge about systems from an architectural standpoint, from coding and all of that. He's the classic technology officer material, right? I was none of that. All I brought to the table of a lot of whys, a lot of why nots, and my designing skills. We were just a two people company. It so happened that whatever we figured out was patentable. So we went and filed for a patent. We actually built an entire bank as a demo. So the problem that we cracked was multi-factor authentication. Today it's pretty much the norm, but back in the day it was not. Right? We filed for a patent. So yeah. You file for a patent, it takes a lot of time, So we filed for a patent, and then we start building stuff, and then we built the entire working stuff, and then we started hitting, went on road trips, wanting to raise capital and wanting to sign up with banks. So then reality struck us, right? All along we had a very safe, nice, cushy, happy ending. You're at a leadership level, your company gets acquired, you vest your RSUs or shares, and you make a lot of money. But when you do your own thing, 2 things, 3-4 years into it, we figured out 2 things. One, you are in the banking financial space, okay? Highly regulatory, a lot of conformances, a lot of rules and regulations, number 1. And number 2, you're just a 2-people company. Yes, you're a legal entity. You have cracked a world problem. You have an amazing solution, which is almost, on the way of becoming a patent. Nobody wants to deal. No big bank wants to deal with a 2-people company, right? That was a very profound eye-opener. Then we said, wow. But we had signed up with some of the, you name the top financial transaction companies or technology companies. We had signed up with these guys. But then long story short, same question. So we had the top 3 banks in the planet actually wanting to take a risk with us and said, they signed a letter of intent with us, said, come and do a paid pilot. By then, we had burnt out our initial investments the money was, we never raised capital. We just put our own money in. Then, things went down south. Who are you? How is it possible for 2 people in India to actually crack a banking problem? A lot of stuff. It is worth a book. Maybe one fine day I'll write a book about this. Mm-hmm. Yeah. We had given ourselves 3 to 5 years time, and then we said, we run out of money, let's pull the wire. So we knew that if not for us, some fine day, the IP is going to make some money for family and kids and all of that. That was like investment. I took a breather. Then we went back to the industry, right? Okay, what do you do? You can't just sit and while away time, right? He found something, I found something, and our journeys began. And then somewhere way back in 2010, 2011, apparently some other tech firm in a different space actually cracked something and wanted to go and file for a patent. Then when they did a patent search, our names popped up already because these guys have already filed it. Yeah. And it's like a movie in the making. Long story short, they got in touch with us. They figured out what we have done. And happy ending, we sold the entire IP that we had, lock, stock, barrel. So probably my second startup was interesting to the extent that we actually gave it away for good in terms of an exit without even having a customer. So, okay. Intense learning. So multiple things. You never look at a space which is too big, no matter how great you are. Sometimes situations, environments also matter, which generally people call luck, but you have to be mentally prepared. Mm-hmm. So and I think these experiences have made me, and then over a period of time, I learned what finance means, why numbers are very important, because we designers run away from numbers and business metrics, right? All of those things matter. So, and now I know a lot of designers. So it is harder for a designer to actually do a tech firm or a different firm. Most of the designers that I know of, I have very good friends in the industry who run their own design studios. That's second nature to us. It's like you don't need to teach a fish to swim, right? But you got to teach a fish to fly. And that's what happens when you actually are a designer, but you want to change the world problems. But yeah, can't complain.
Interesting.
So that's been my journey. So.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. A couple of questions come up here. How did you, design background? We talked earlier on this conference also design about the methodology. And I want a little bit with that kind of problem. It's very much of a service design problem, maybe UX design. How did you use the design background in order to solve this banking problem?
Okay.
So you had some contributions to solving this problem, right? I'm wondering about like how specifically it plays into the
interesting question. So fundamentally, like I said, between my co-founder and me, we had a binder full of ideas. Back in the day, I'm telling you, we had ideas of food delivery. If I tell now, people will say that I'm just bragging, but we had ideas because India gives you scale. Can we build a service for food delivery? Can we have better systems where people can book tickets? A lot of ideas. A lot of them got killed. Some of them are billion-dollar ideas today, billion-dollar companies today. And how did I apply design? I think design is the only thing I knew. And back in the day, in 2006 and 2007, at least in this part of the world, terms like service design and process design didn't exist. What we brought to the table is we found a dire need. So our simple hypothesis was food, shelter, clothing, basically your Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And in today's day and age, money is an integral part of anybody's life. If somebody is saying, I don't care about money, I think they're lying. So we said money resonates very closely to the human psyche and people who didn't want to lose money. And then there was this big outburst and big, fear factor looming about identity theft and all that. So all of them dovetailed. So first principles of design, how did we apply design? Is this a problem that is worth solving? Because if you really look at the hypothesis of service design, it is not about solving a problem. It is about solving the right problem. And how do you actually get to know that that's the right problem? That is again design techniques, right? You do your research, you ask the right questions, and then you frame and you reframe and you fortify the problem statement that you want. I think somehow, luckily or otherwise, even without knowing other domains or terms, we figured out that this is a borderline wicked problem to solve. Then the standard techniques apply. Spoke to people like you and me who have credit cards, debit cards, who do online banking. And then we spoke to people, friends and family networks really helped. Spoke to a lot of people, right from the banks, people who run banks, like the leadership of banks. We are lucky to have some networks where we had audiences. And some of the banks actually told us, if you build this, we will buy it out. Unfortunately, they didn't. But that's okay. I think in retrospect, 2 people company, we did research. We did primary research. Yes, we were always on the road, talking to bank, talking to people, spending time in malls. It was fantastic. In retrospect, unbelievable level of ethnographic studies, in situ studies, then coming back, reflecting, no post-it, nothing, right? You basically recast, you write, make notes, and then you actually start playing it on your drive back, on your flight back. Intense. Maybe the other thing that we learned,
So you're listening to the interviews quite often to reflect on
talk to people. Yeah, because just two people, we didn't use certain methodologies that today are like second nature, right? Workshops and all that. But net we figured out, we distilled, we were on the right path. And in retrospect, now if I see, I think it can be a 3-step, 5-step process that people talk about. Most of them talk about. I think we somehow applied all of those without even knowing that that's the right way. Yeah, now you can correlate back and weave a story out of it. But I think so basically it was design and tech. Probably, it was design-led. We built a bank called Money Honey Bank. And people used to be shocked when we used to show the demo. We used to go with card swiping machines, ATM simulators and all of that. So basically we used to go with this huge suitcase for demos and people used to be like flabbergasted. Like these guys are sitting on something else. So I think design really helped qualify the problem, because otherwise we could have simply been a tech company just writing some piece of code and most of the people wouldn't have got it. And because this is banking and enterprise. So I think design really helped.
Fascinating. So what's super interesting is you were mentioning, if designers want to, change the world, you said you need to teach a fish how to fly, right? Yes. Can you expand on that? I think.
Well, okay. Don't hold me. I mean, that was just the analogy that I just wanted to.
Yeah, I get the point. But I think there's a lot in there. If you unpack
I know.
it.
Since a lot of people are going to listen to us, they shouldn't think that we just are throwing some analogies. Yes, what I meant was connecting the dots. We designers always say, right? Outside in, inside out, connecting the dots and whatnot. They sound very funky to a non-designer. But you and me, being practitioners, we know it's not as easy as connecting the dots. Because more often than not, when you get into service level problems, service design problems, there aren't even dots to connect. So what do you connect, right? So what I meant was, I always classify problems as two things: impossible, improbable. If it is in life, can you defeat death? Impossible. Can you extend your life today? We all know it's improbable, but people are trying. There are certain things you cannot change. It goes against the laws of nature. So park it. And then the rest is probably up for grabs. You can solve it. So how do you teach a fish to fly? By the way, there are fishes that do fly. I know that you know, but yeah, they don't do a transcontinental flight. But what I meant was, there are a lot of things that a designer should feel he or she is lucky, because we get to work on multiple domains. Not many people get that opportunity in life. We don't realize that. What that means you need to learn to unlearn and relearn, which most of us don't do. We think our life is as good as tools, some mastery on tools. But in today's day and age, I know that every 6 months something changes, right? You need to basically keep an empty mind. Yeah. At least some empty space in your mind where you know that I need to unhook. That's very difficult. All of us have gone through that. That's the analogy of, you teach a fish to fly. What is considered as impossible, it's not impossible, it's improbable. It is a function of the efforts that you put in, right? So what do I mean by that? You may be let's take your example. Now you're with BMW, right? I mean, it's synonymous with automobile, German precision and all of that. Tomorrow, can you actually lift and shift and get into some, say, something's as complex and as subtle as, neurosurgery? Hell yes, you can. Because if you apply first principles, you can. But you learned that I could equally swim in the oceans and equally fly elsewhere. It takes time. It's organic. First principles, again, as designers, I think we should have the humility to learn and unlearn. Because this I know it all doesn't help. Frankly, I'm no saint. There was a point in time in my life where, after the first 3-4 exits, I mean, you get an extra chip on your shoulder. Literally, your horns start growing because you're a great designer, you're a product designer. People see what you build. That's why your company gets bought and sold. But I think you need to step back and think that you're only as good as your last project, but the whole world is waiting for the next thing, right? Humility, willingness to learn, and the propensity to go and ask people. Humility doesn't mean just I'm humble and I won't even ask anything. And the last important thing is, if you don't know, you don't know. Feel free to claim that you don't know. Be proud about the fact you don't know. And also have the faith that there is somebody who knows, right? Go and ask. Just ask. There are people willing to help. So at least for me, it has been magical. Every time I had to learn something, either I get connected, maybe synchronicity at work, I get connected to the right people. I end up reading a nice article that takes me to a nice book, and be prepared to learn every single day is all I could tell.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, super interesting. I wonder, I would like to expand on that a little bit, and I was wondering, like, I think it's in the same area. What are the unique skills? I mean, you were touching on the unlearning aspect. This is probably one important skill. But what are other skills designers need in order to be involved in entrepreneurship? Starting out ventures like you did. I'm sure there are other topics you see important.
Yeah, like I touched upon like 15 one of your previous questions, right? You are not a function of the tools that you know, and you're not a function of just that verticalization that you know. I'm an industrial designer, I'm a service designer. Somewhere it all melts and becomes a horizontal where you are a designer. And what does designer mean to me after all of these years in the industry is, it's just a label that I've given myself, or that's how the world recognizes me. But what I actually do is I try to solve problems every day, and I try to solve problems that make an impact to humans and to businesses, right? It has to make sense for both. Apart from the normal, I can bucket this as must-have skills. It's like our tools, our understanding, first principles, philosophies. And then there are some adjacent skills, right? One of the first things is, forget entrepreneurship. Designers, I always insist, should understand this whole notion of business. It really, really, really helps to have a perspective or an inside view of how businesses operate. A business is a huge engine, right? You're just a cog in the wheel, or a spoke in, the hub is the business, you're just a spoke probably. There are multiple spokes that kick in, because otherwise everything that you, like we were talking offline, everything that you do has to have an impact, right? Otherwise it's art. Like I was telling people yesterday, somebody said, how is design this way? How can I make design? How can I tell that my design is done? So my answer to this person was, design never gets done. And if at all it gets done, it's art. You frame it, you keep it with yourself, or you sell it. But design is always in a constant state of motion. So apart from the must-have skills, nice to have skills, which probably at some point in time becomes must-have skills. Learning and unlearning, because you should be willing to get to the deep end of the tunnel and try to understand each domain that you're solving for. You cannot apply design as a business solving lever if you don't understand what's that domain. For example, in Designit, we work across sectors: oil and gas, aerospace, urban transportation, automotive. You name the things, we pretty much have worked. Does all of the Designits, the 550 of us across the globe, do we have skills across the board? Absolutely no. But do we have specific skills, past life experiences? Absolutely yes. But what keeps us thriving? That hunger to learn, that hunger to ask questions. And then, then apply the must-have skills that you have. That's what the customer pays you for. So does that answer your question? Or
Yeah, absolutely.
So let me summarize. Must-have skills, tool sets, systems, methodologies, a thorough understanding of first principles and basics is a necessary thing. Then the applied areas and absolute flexibility to learn things and curiosity.
Would you advise people who want to get have an impact in that space to do an MBA at some point?
Okay.
Or would you say it's learning by doing?
So I would fall under the latter bucket, because I have enrolled myself for way too many courses that I've lost count of, and I jumped from something to something, and probably I never pursued anything very seriously. Probably if I had spent the time, and I could have had a lot of a few, if not multiple, extra qualifications, if you will. But speaking for myself, I think it helps. It is a door opener. And at the same time, in the continuum, either you have supreme skills wherein your academics become kind of negligible, or you do an MBA. I think in today's day and age, because information is available, you can actually sit at your couch and still access an MBA course from the top universities today. So if you have the passion, if you have the wherewithal, and if you have a plan. So it's one thing to have an MBA. It's another thing about why do you want an MBA? So that's the most profound thing. I know of a lot of people who have done amazing design, have gone to B school, and then it helps from a corporate structure and all of that. It's not going to bring you down. It's not a loss, but it's a significant investment in terms of your time, your money, and applied areas, right? So now the academia world has come up with design management. In my mind, that's as good as MBA. MBA probably yes, because some of the smarter ones not smarter ones, some of the curious ones basically say that to them, I can learn about business and finance and balance sheet and all of this, maybe in an MBA course. Some of them think that way. So some of them go and pursue it. I mean, like I said, nothing wrong in it, but yeah, it doesn't stop your growth. Just because it's not going to happen that BMW tomorrow will not make you a chief design officer because you don't have an MBA. So I'm just using you as an example, but it helps. So I think any learning helps, be it formal education or informal self-learning things. Education is education. It helps. So I'm just going to keep it open because from my end, like I said, I dovetailed into anthropology. I did the psychology, but I never completed the courses. I mean, I never wrote the exam types, but yeah, but I learned what I learned and I'm applying it. So
we were touching earlier on saying, design can either impact humans or business, right? Can you maybe unpack this a little bit? What is the impact, designers can have if they apply, design in a certain way?
Okay. So if you really look at the growth of design as an industry, right? I mean, globally, on a global scale, I mean, design has been there. Industrial revolution was all about design, right? From nothing, you started the printing press. Most of history actually attributes to this whole thing on the, Gutenberg press. Phenomenal thing. I mean, people to transition from an age where a single book used to take about 2 to 3 years because it was handwritten to a machine that prints, that spits out like 200 books a day. That was unbelievable stuff, right? That's design again, right? We have ancient architecture across the globe. We have pyramids. We have, if you look at India, we have like amazing, all of that is design, right? It is context in which you see. Life is all about context. I keep telling this to the extent of boring people to death. Context, right? So yeah, then you move, a lot of things happened in the world. And then people started seeing that, okay, design becomes very, very critical. Design becomes very, very imperative, right? Then there was the age of aesthetics, right? Can I make it funkier? Can I make it? Why do you think people put a premium on a BMW as opposed to a non-BMW? I mean, you know the answer. It's got finesse. It's got that brand promise. It's got a lot of things for which people are willing to pay a premium. Many are tangible things. Many things are intangible things. But at the heart of all of the perceived notions, tangible or intangible, is actually design, right? So if you move up the continuum, yeah, it's not cosmetics alone. It's not your proverbial, lipstick on the pig. But now I think with technology disrupting, people's lifestyles changing, economic strata of the, I mean, we don't have as many poor people that you had 10 years back in the whole, and people are growing. Now, aesthetics, the lipstick is a default. Everybody expects the lipstick anyways. It is about functionality. It's about ease of use, again, usability. It's about, is it making a change, a small change in my life day to day, right? That is what design is to me. It's not just the look, feel, and all. There's always this debate, look, form follows function follows form. Sooner or later, we are going to get into a formless, functionless world where it has to be, it's basically voice. Does it have a form? It has, but it has an auditory thing. It's a very intangible thing. I think design is very critical. Every other thing, the beauty about service design is that, right? Everything, I mean, we are sitting here, there is a service that Novotel is provided in terms of space. Space as a service. We are sitting in this place, we paid for it, we are talking about a lot of funky stuff. If you really scratch the surface, there is some thought process into this process and there's design. So I did not say it has to impact business or humans. I said and. And it's not one of the other. If it impacts humans, it gets you the scale. And if a business actually solves for that scale, it is a viable business. I mean, that's as simple as MBA 101 for me. I may be absolutely wrong, but I have distilled it to that. What is a business? It basically is in the business of making money by solving a problem. Today, that whole strata of where you solve the problem has changed, right? How can I make life better? How can I make commute better? How can I make my, eating better? How can I make my sleeping better? Things are getting very distilled as, point solutions that you can solve. At the heart of everything is design. Things succeed or things fail because of good or bad design. It's as simple. It's two sides of the same coin.
Super interesting. What is, what are some of the challenges and topics you're really excited about when it comes to your current role at Designit? And you work in all kinds of domains. Maybe you can, talk a little bit about your role there and some of the things you are excited about in terms of domains you're working with.
Yeah, multifaceted. First thing, because we are Designit, we our parent. I mean, we are part of Wipro. And, the whole world knows Wipro, right? About 180,000 people. We are kind of a mini nation, very diverse, many nationalities. We are like a small country in ourselves, a very successful one at that. And we are We're a $8.5-9 billion company, and it's a huge enterprise. We were like Wipro acquired us for what we bring to the table, right? And we still have been given the liberty of running as Designit because people know what Designit is. So that itself is a great win. Number one, your identity is still intact. Number two, when you work for a very large scale organization like Wipro, anything in terms of volumes, you have nice, good things, you have bad things, you have ugly things. It's not a Wipro specific thing, but I think my learning has been that it is very, very, very hard to actually make people understand the strategic value of design unless and until they're willing to know about it or they're aware of it. Because design means too many things to too many people. Like if you're a sales guy, if you're a technology guy, you're only looking at life from your lens. How can I sell more? The engineering guy probably looks at it as how can I quickly build this and throw it out, deliver. And at the heart of it, we have been a hardcore technology firm for like 20-25 years now, right? It's like in technology, anything can be built. Chances are Wipro has built it. But this whole transformational shift that is happening across the globe is basically now people are realizing that design is the key. All things have become design-led. It's basically life is going to full circle again. So the challenges in Wipro is like, it is, like I said, it's a multi-billion-dollar company having customers across the globe. And then, there are certain nuances that you need to be aware of. And the beauty is, like you asked a question, right? You work on so many domains. Yes. We are so lucky to actually sit in a place and have a first-hand, access to, like in the morning, you may be talking to a prospect who comes from an oil and gas company. And in the evening, you may be talking to a retailer who's trying to solve another problem. Mm-hmm. That's the beauty of it because there is no domain that Wipro doesn't work with. So we get door openers, we get to talk to people. That's the great thing. The not so great thing in a way is that the expectations are very high. Like you're a strategic design house, you better solve my problem. And then when the rubber hits the road, that's where the disconnect happens. Mm-hmm. Your businesses basically say, simple example, more often than not, Designit is very, 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 religious, if I were to use the word, about, using research, be it secondary, be it primary. And I think most of us also believe in that. I mean, you can't solve for it unless and until you know what you're solving for. But ground realities are different. If you talk to a guy, I've seen this across my life, and I'm seeing it again. When you talk to a CEO or a founding member of a great company and a growing company and say, you know what, great problem to solve, super happy to get engaged with you. Forget the commercials. We'll shake hands, let's begin and all of that. No, the customer says, why do you want to do research? We're like, everything that we do starts with research. No. And what are you going to do? We're going to fan out, we're going to talk to people, your geography, we do a lot of stuff, we analyze, we synthesize, and then we come back to you. Wait. I'm not dead against it, but if you want to talk to people, you want to talk to experts, talk to me. I am the expert. This is my baby. I've been running this company for 12 years. I have stories that can fill an Encyclopedia Britannica. I mean, nobody else can tell my story in a better way than me. It's very, very hard for people to actually convince that you are you. Fine, I will talk to you, but you are not your customer who's going to pay that $1 which is going to come to your revenue sheet, right? We also have, when we say user experience, more often than not, I see this across the board. We start designing according to our whims and fancies. And then the quote that I generally tell people is, you are not the user. Have you spoken to a user? Or have you tried to emulate and simulate? So one of the complexities is, or when we deal with certain verticals, like for example, again, let's say we are working with the aviation team in our broader organization. There are so-called experts who come and say, no, it won't work this way. So it becomes a constraint. So yeah. But otherwise, the learning has been, it is great. It is great when you're part of you're part of, like I keep saying, we are 550 people in a 180,000 people organization. So you do the math. We may be just a dot on that universe, but we are impactful enough. So, we have added significantly to the way Wipro does business, the way Wipro is transforming other people, and the way we are transforming ourselves. So it has its own complexities, but I always look at them as design problems that could be solved. Like, for example, how do you deal with a certain vertical? Like you're the aerospace guy. Either we lock horns and, it becomes an emotional drainer for both, one-upmanship, or we meet at the middle ground and say, hey, you're the aviation expert. I'm never going to be one, but I'm the design expert. So let's work together and do what is best for the customer. I think we are learning a lot of things. Designers also learn humility. How do you walk in their other shoes? How do you figure out how people look at their lens and all that? So it has been profound, and that's what brings me to work every single day. The other thing is I have this fantastic opportunity to actually run DevOps. on Sunday, or someone else was talking to me. I mean, he basically, I think in my mind, this whole DevOps thing, he was courtesy him, right? He started talking about DevOps is as important as anything else, right? You run a studio, you figure out a lot of nuts and bolts, and you have to be at the top of your game. So that's something that I'm actually doing it day in and day out. I take care of delivery for this studio. Anything goes wrong in terms of final delivery, it's my neck on the line. So it's a very responsible, very high visibility job, and I think that's what makes me thrive. And I have a fantastic team, and very supportive functions, because we are part of an organization called Wipro Digital, which itself is like a $2 billion unit in Wipro. And complexities aside, pluses and minuses aside, it's exciting time. So it's not a job.
Yeah. You're located in Bangalore, right? And
yes.
then, but you also work for other studios, right?
Yes.
In Asia. So which are the other studios?
So across. So the way we work is each studio is responsible for a certain geography. Like example, if you take North America, we have a studio in San Francisco, we have a studio in New York. Anything that happens in that geography typically is run by them. So if you look at Designit India, it's not India alone, right? We are responsible for the entire Eastern Hemisphere, barring Japan, simply because we have a studio in Japan, barring Australia and New Zealand, because we have a setup in Australia that takes care of New Zealand as a geo. That's still a lot. Entire ASEAN is for us to operate on. However, there are times when other studios might have signed up with other customers who might have some sliver of work that happens in our geo. As I speak, we have had designers work in the UK on customer projects. We've had designers actually work out of the Tokyo studio. So we mass collaborate. On a need basis, on an expertise basis, people come here and people go there.
Maybe as the last question, because we have to wrap it up in terms of time. No, we're here at UX India, right? So, and you have your roots in India. So what excites you about design in India? I mean, there's been a lot of evolution recently. So
yes, bunch of things. Now design is slowly becoming mainstream in India as a viable profession, very respectable position, and a lot of people want to actually pick up design as a career path. My generation, probably either you're an engineer or a doctor. If this, then that, or if that, then this. Otherwise, nothing happens. But I think now, a lot of design schools, a lot of people are actually pursuing academics in design schools. Back in the day, we didn't have opportunities, we didn't have schools. So I think India gives you a scale. Like 1/6 of the world populace is in India, right? So if you can get things right in India, you can pretty much get things right anywhere. And India is unique in its own terms because we are a country with multiple countries. If you use the analogy, we have 1,000-odd languages, we have different cultures, different people. That itself is a challenge. How do you horizontalize a lot of common problems, right? Opportunity areas are great. We have one of the largest agrarian economy, and the agri-tech space is actually changing big time. A lot of interventions could happen there, like smart devices, smart information, making a farmer smart. I'm just giving examples. Retail, the kind of people that you have, consumption model you have, populace you have, I think no other country has. The sheer purse size, whether people buy it or not, is different. Retail is very ripe for the picking. Consumer goods are very ripe. So I think opportunity spaces are immense in India, and we are one of the fastest growing GDPs for whatever it is. But yes, we are the next big thing. So you need to ride the wave, and I think design is at the heart of all. It's like the tip of the spear, if you will. I think design can and will impact, but yeah, it's a lot of grunt work. It's a lot of it's not easy come, easy go. So I think great times ahead. So let's see how it pans out. So
yeah, exciting times.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you so much for sharing all the insights. It's been amazing.
It's been a pleasure. So super happy, and thank you.
Thank you.
That was the episode. If you want to give us feedback on the podcast, have something to contribute to the next episode, or just want to get in touch, feel free to connect with us either on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram messages, or simply via the designdrives.org website. We love to hear from you.